made to hit in America. I was made to hit in America. I was made to hit in America. Yeah. I was made to hit in America.
Hello, and welcome to the first Beck commentary. This is the director commentary. I'm Christopher Bevins.
And I'm Taliesin Jaffe.
And the two of us slaved away at this show for quite some time. It's just the beginning of the journey for you guys, but it's literally the end of the road for us.
I've had easier times mining ore. It's absolutely true.
Well, as we sit here, this is literally Taliesin's last day in Texas before he heads back to California, where I stole him from. But it's been hell of a journey. And I can say hell on this commentary.
Hella. Yeah, and hella.
And hella.
And all sorts of terrible things that we may
say all sorts of nasty words that we might have to say at some point or another.
Things that go on T-shirts. That's a whole nother story.
Yes.
Yeah.
In general, I would say this is one of the biggest challenges I've had as a director. I don't know about you.
This is definitely. I would have no problem saying that this is the most difficult show I've ever worked on. It's and I knew that going in. I mean, there was really no question that this was kind of a kamikaze run.
Yeah, I suppose we should. I don't know. Maybe should we reenact the phone call I made to you on about 8 months ago?
Sure, go ahead. It was the.
Hey, Taliesin, it's Bevins.
Yeah, what's up, man? What you doing?
Oh, not much. Hey, you heard of a show called Beck?
Oh, God, yeah. I pity the poor fuckers gotta dub that thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, you want to come out to Texas and direct that with me?
Yeah, shit, okay.
Yeah, it's pretty much that.
That's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
I was at my house. I was waiting on a call for another show, and it never came, and and so I came out and decided to commit double suicide on this show.
Well.
Packed my whole life into my car and drove to Texas from California.
I gotta say though, it's been quite an awesome time working with another director on a show, which I've never done before.
I'd never done either. That was my first time.
I'm so glad we worked together well, because
I would have killed them.
It would have sucked after 2 days if we figured out that we really don't work together well, because that would have made this show even longer. But fortunately, I think we seem to be firing on all cylinders and hitting the same page on most of the things we wanted to do with the show.
More or less, and I gotta tell you, you can't really live long off of the meat of another director once you kill them and start consuming their body. It's,
yeah.
If it has to come to that, there's really, that's a month tops. One of the big challenges that we're looking at right now is the language gap. If anybody who's seen the show in Japanese knows that this scene in particular is partially in English. This was one of the things that I think brought both of us to the show, is that there's really no way to do this right.
Yeah. There's any number of ways that similar situations have been treated in the past by other dub studios, so on and so forth. And I think we talked about just about every possible way we could do this. Do we give one nationality a dialect of some sort? Do we have the Americans speak in New York style dialect or Southern style dialect to set them off as American, or do we have the Japanese speak in Japanese accents?
Or do we have the Japanese, or do we have turn the English into Japanese, or the Japanese into Spanish, or the English into Spanish, or do we subtitle it? What do we do?
Put a note on screen that says, this person is speaking English here. I think ultimately what we decided really suits the show, and it's the best thing for the show.
I'm absolutely pleased with our decision.
We decided any real major stuff we would try to do would ultimately take the viewer out of the show. It would ultimately be a distraction. And rather than make you have to stop and think about, okay, what's going on here, we'd rather give you really, I think, vivid characters and the other thing where we tried as much as possible is to change the language issues into a cultural issue.
Yeah, and we I think we succeeded there. I think that's one of the things that really I'm pleased. I think Chris and I are only crazy enough to do. I think if you come into this show and you don't know its history and you don't know where it's coming from the Japanese, I would dare you to figure out where we had to change things, and if you could find any moment that comes off as awkward. And we took those fights and those cultural battles, and we put them in other places, and we padded it up where it needed to remind everybody that there are Americans and Japanese, and they don't see eye to eye, and there are places where they break. But
We'll definitely find an opportunity for Ryusuke or Maho to comment on how they don't understand the Japanese way of thinking, how things are so different where they grew up in America, things of that nature.
I just recently in a later episode, and you'll get to this like a year from now, you'll see this, but we took a fight that was essentially Maho getting upset at Koyuki's inability to learn English, and more or less turned it around to Koyuki getting defensive and using Maho's inability to learn Japanese as an excuse to get out of something.
Exactly. And while we may not have to hear Ryusuke speak in Japanese and in English, we can come right out and say, wow, his kanji sucks. Things of that nature to set him apart as a very Americanized Japanese character.
Yeah, we never pretend that there isn't at least a written language gap, and that helps. Other things that we do is we actually set tonal sounds for Westernized characters and non-Westernized characters. We have most of our traditional Japanese characters speak with what would be considered, I suppose, a more traditional anime voice.
Yeah, very straightforward.
No swearing.
And very little swearing. Good, excellent diction, excellent pronunciation. Not much in the way of any sort of, completely devoid of dialects, things of that nature. And more or less, when possible, more proper, or when appropriate, more proper type of language rather than slangy type language.
And always pretty polite. I mean, even our thugs and kind of bullies are pretty tame, especially by at least by my memory of high school, by my comparison.
Exactly.
And then our Westernized characters are definitely a lot looser and a lot much. They can use ain'ts and don'ts.
And name pronunciation was another way we very tried to subtly work that in, that the more Americanized the character is, the more Americanized we tend to pronounce their name. So characters like Manabu, who really want to be a Western rock and roll star, are Manabu, not Manabu. Whereas Tanabe is a great one. He only speaks Japanese in the show and is a very traditional, if perverted, but very traditional
Reminds
Japanese
me of
teenage
my
boy.
friends in Japan, actually. That awful hair. Oh, God. And no.
Yes.
Yeah, Toshi, if you're listening to this, I'm not talking about your hair. Your hair is awesome.
Have I mentioned how much this dog really sucks, by the way?
I wish we had just left the Japanese, really, at a certain point.
I mean, whoever decided to let that casting decision fly.
Hasn't seen me like forever. He runs right by.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
This is actually our first...
I almost broke my neck trying to... Never mind.
Well, there was that. I was very impressed because it was a new form of... Actually, your bark was particularly unique, and I actually learned a new bark. As a director, you're very excited whenever an actor comes in and brings something new to the table, technically.
It was fun. I've played dogs before in the past, and I wanted to, I played Bee the Puppy in Dragon Ball Z, which was my first recurring role ever. But I wanted to come up with a new dog voice for Beck that's different from the puppy.
Greg,
I think it was fun. It's inward barking, lots of fun.
Inward barking, he called it that. I kid you not. This is what I have to work with.
Yeah.
Did
I mention I'm glad you're leaving? I mean, I am so gonna miss you.
That's funny. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
Well, I won't let the door of the booth hit you on the way out.
Yeah, right.
Let me tell you. I've had a lot of fun here. Actually, Funimation is definitely you half expect Willy Wonka to come running out of the, or run screaming anyway down the corridor.
Hey, the fun is all in capitals, just so you know.
They put the fun in Funimation.
Yeah, fun.
I'm not sure.
God, I love this part.
Greg actually, what sold me on Greg for this part, and we talked a lot about this, was I actually ended up hearing and he's going to kill me for this, his audition for Cirque du Soleil. And he had a musical audition for that. And I actually have it on if you find me at a con, I may have it on my iPod. It's a phenomenal.
Yeah. I always knew Greg could sing. Then I actually listened to him singing. And wow. Really, I mean, and it's such a knowing what Greg does and hearing what kind of work Greg has done in the past, not counting a certain show from a certain other company that just came out in November, which also has lots of singing.
Radish siblings.
Very,
or something,
yes,
I don't know.
very, very different kind of singing from where we're going with. But yeah, we always knew Greg could sing, but hearing him really just belt it out as Koyuki just really, I mean, that's what the character of Koyuki needed, is this very unassuming, very straightforward, normal kid in high school who, even unbeknownst to himself, has the voice of God, or has this unbelievable, musical gift that he's never even explored.
And it's a challenge that we were faced with that the Japanese were not faced with. Actually, a friend who pointed this out. Somebody, I think Sana pointed this out. Somebody pointed this out to me. That Koyuki's impressive singing in Japanese, a lot of that is just that he's singing in English, which is kind of a feat. And
Yes.
you can forgive a lot of what he does in Japanese because he's singing in English.
Yes.
We do not have that luxury. We need our singers to be really good. We need them to have range. We need them to. Was that Jonathan Klein I just heard?
That was, yes. Yes, it
I'm not
was.
talking. Flashback to another dub. Yay. We needed our singers to really be able to give out a good performance and sometimes a bad performance and know the difference between a show that's really connecting and a show that's not connecting. And thankfully, Mike McFarland really kind of took that away. And
Yeah, his the job Mike's done with the music so far has just been phenomenal. Knowing that when it's supposed to be a really bad poppy band that's not going to go anywhere, that they don't have to sing that good, and that they shouldn't sing that good, that well. Sorry,
good, well.
good, well, whatever.
This is this is also, I might add, the show of bad diction where we can get away with it because they're like 14 to 16 in this show.
I think
we can talk
when we first got the first couple of mixes back, first couple of these episodes, you described it to me the best, and it's the way I've been describing the sound of this show all along since then, which is this is not an anime. It's not a traditional anime show. It is very, very different from that. It's in many ways an indie movie, a 26-episode long indie movie that just happens to have been animated in Japan. The tone and the feel for the show is so real world. There's no fantasy, no sci-fi at all, with the possible exception of the dog.
Yeah, and I would have
Frankenpuppy.
at one point I would have compared this to Mazen Ikoku, but even there you have such a break with these over the top operatic characters where you don't have anything like that in this show.
Yeah.
It's very you could really this could almost be like one of those Doctor Who episodes where they've just lost the film, so they just animate on top of it to give you something to go with. We lost the film to this movie and getting an animated.
You get an animated set, yeah.
Because
It's got a very, very distinct feel. There are occasionally characters.
always throws
Speaking
me.
of, yes,
God.
one of them was just on screen. God! Yes.
Oh, okay.
Some characters, like I was saying, like on screen right there, a little bit more animated than others. Mr. Saito, Chiba has his moments of crazy wackiness. Tanabe as well, but for the most part, it's a very grounded show. And very grounded dialogue. And the biggest, I think, struggle for us was to always keep that dialogue sounding natural, sound like he was coming out of a real person and not out of a cartoon.
And I think we mostly succeeded.
I would hope so.
I would like to think. We're both pretty far in. We've now seen up to episode 26. So we can talk about it. But
Oh, yes.
your journey is just beginning.
We don't want to spoil too much, but of course we assume you've seen all of this volume
Yeah,
so
if you
far.
haven't watched, if you're watching the commentary first, I mean, come on,
Stop it and watch the other episodes. You will like them. We promise.
go take a jog or something and then come back. I mean, that's just Really, we may give away
I
something.
loved that Saito reaction, by the way. It's one of my favorites. It's kind of stolen from Jungle Boogie.
Is it the Jungle Boogie?
Not intentionally, but when it came out, I was like, why does that sound familiar to me? Oh, yeah.
I just love the scene for the lifeguard, which was our one little homage. I'm going to say homage to the Big Lebowski.
Yes.
He is our dude.
He is our dude. We've got several. I think we've got plenty of homage to plenty of the things that have influenced us over the years. I know when it comes to dialogue and the way dialogue is read and presented, there are a handful of filmmakers who I look at for inspiration on the way to treat dialogue. And the Coen brothers are definitely
up there.
way up there, along with Kevin Smith, Tarantino, who are masters of the pitter pat dialogue back and forth.
I take Jaws. I mean, I really didn't have any this is. I mean, anybody who's listened to one of my commentaries before knows that I mean, ROD was all Joss Whedon, but that's very specifically a type of dialogue that really doesn't work for the show at all. This is like, I couldn't take anything from ROD and apply it to the show. It was useless. It would have sounded awful.
There are a handful of shows that I'm like you turned me on to Veronica Mars, and which is such a smart high school show. Well, they moved on to college now, but in the first couple seasons, which we were watching, such a smart and not dumbed down teenage show that really was a big influence on the tone I wanted to set with this dialogue as well.
I would
things of that nature.
agree with that.
The humor is zingy when necessary, and the serious stuff is very serious.
And even the profane characters, while they may be profane, they at least can be witty in their profanity. And,
exactly.
And we work hard to make sure that nothing gets too repetitive and that everybody stays fresh and that you never quite know what's going to come out of somebody's mouth.
Right. Especially Chiba.
I've got an early curfew anyway.
Oh yeah, and casting this was a lot of fun for me because I am not from this planet. I'm not from planet Texas.
Yes.
I'm a fan of many Texas dubs, but I'm true a West Coaster, and I have my West Coast palette of actors, and Stephanie Shea and that whole
whole gang
Liam and Crispin and Patrick. But coming out here, I mean, I knew who some people were, and I knew the sound of some people, but I really am kind of ignorant of most of the cast out here.
You got the crash course in what people could do very quickly.
Yeah.
Very quickly.
And I was convinced for a while that I discovered Jerry Jewell. That's how dumb I am. I was like, I found this guy. He's phenomenal. Oh my God. Whoa.
Yeah, that's Jerry. People like him. He does lots of good stuff for us. Oh, bummer.
Well, can I still use him?
Yeah.
And we had musical auditions for this too.
We did. We had just about anybody who wanted to be considered for a musical role had to sing in addition to
answer some questions.
Answer a questionnaire on how much they rock as far as, vocal ability, musical ability. Where possible, we tried to cast people who had musical knowledge for their instruments, their characters' instruments.
And mostly we succeeded.
Yeah. Jerry Jewell, brilliant bass player. Justin Cook has quite a bit of singing background.
Keyboard
and keyboard. And
phenomenal.
Greg has a little bit of guitar experience and a lot of singing experience.
And our drummer, well, is not a drummer, but he is a musician.
He's a musician as well.
Togo's a drummer too.
Togo's music. Well, he's not a drummer per se naturally, but he's plays a lot of anything with strings. Just about. Orion Pitts. Very excellent.
A lot of fun.
John Bergmeyer, also, who plays AG in the show, is a guitarist in a band. So we tried to pool our musical resources as much as possible for this.
We asked. We had a short essay question on the audition side of "Do you rock?"
Please explain.
Please explain. The best one I think was Carrie Savage's "Do you rock?" where she actually came in wearing a T-shirt that said "I rock."
So no questionnaire necessary.
She sort of won by default on that one. Yeah, the only person who didn't take the singing audition, I think, was Colleen. Was the only person who didn't.
There's a couple. There was a few others.
Was there a few?
There was a few others.
I'm not good.
But that's okay.
Yeah.
We didn't want people to try something they were uncomfortable with, because when casting, we want to find your comfort zones and find out.
And they don't
where
know.
we can push
They don't
you.
know me. I might want to blackmail them with something. So.
Yeah, you never know.
No, it was a
I certainly haven't kept any of the singing auditions, and nor will you ever be able to hear them, no matter how much you ask me or bribe me. Not that you can't try.
Yeah. But no. Yes, but no.
Yes, but no. This was a lot of fun. This was my first Wallace session, actually. Weirdly enough, was for this.
Was this episode? This was fun. I always love working with characters who are just total dicks. And Manabu is the first total dick that we meet in this show, or among them.
You dick! Look at that.
I just can't seem to make the ball hit the bat.
He's just a dick.
And who better? Patton just has a way with the smarm that he's so good at. And of course, Patton's a very talented actor regardless, across the board. But, man, there's just something about getting him to be a smarmy little punk that just works so well.
Hey, boys. Take a look at their bed.
The other thing that we did quite a bit is this was not a show that was chopped up into pieces so much. I've been describing our working relationship on the show as very Lennon and McCartney rather than
collage, yeah.
rather than Elton John and Bernie Taupin. If you don't get that reference, look it up. But yes, we really
one.
very collaborative rather than separate but equal.
There's a couple episodes where I can't remember who did what anymore.
There are
Sort of
episodes
staring.
where I defy the audience to figure out where, in the middle of a conversation, we switch directors. And I'll give you a hint. Maho was one of the characters in one of these episodes. In the middle of the conversation, we ran out of time in my session, and Taliesin picked up the rest of the episode right in the middle of that conversation. And I doubt people will ever figure out who did what.
No.
That'll be the big challenge. Who directed what?
And there's not an episode where one of us didn't pick up.
That is true.
I'm leaving town in like an hour, and I've got like, Chris, can you pick these things up while I'm gone? You're like, yeah.
Yeah, all right, fine, we'll finish. But yes, every single episode has both of our hands in it at some point or another. There's not one episode that was exclusively one or the other director.
And hey, the time preview guy, Chris Sabat, the preview guy. We should talk about that.
Yes, we are running out of time. The preview guy was a fun little character we decided to kind of make up.
Kind of a Lemmy from Motorhead kind of vibe was the idea.
With a little bit of Keith Richards.
And he ties into the story a little bit later. We actually kind of turned it into a little thing. It kind of comes to a clever thing. If you can catch it, I'll be very impressed.
Yes. But Lemmy does appear, I'm sorry, our fake Lemmy.
Our fake Lemmy.
Chris Sabat does appear as a pseudo character a couple times throughout the show. And if you can figure it out, find one of us at a con or email us, whatever.
Twice actually. I think
Twice.
Remy. I'm going to call him Remy.
Remy. Awesome.
But so yeah, it was nice to kind of congeal that all into something because it was a little bit vague in the Japanese and kind of went just left and right.
It's good to give him a new character. Well, hey, since we're about out of time, why don't we sign off? I'm Christopher Bevins, voice director.
I'm Taliesin Jaffe, voice director.
And thanks for coming. Thanks for watching.
Come back again. We'll have something special, and people will sing. Oh, will they sing?
And talk.
Wow, there's more of that.
Okay, so there's more time than we realized. Goodbye.